There is a secret known only by the monks who walk the mountain paths before dawn, a truth whispered only once. Between the wind and the silence, before the soul wakes, it is said, when the soul of a man begins to fall in love with a woman, he does not fall into her arms first, he falls into the memory of her presence. This is not romance. This is recognition. It does not begin with a message. It begins with a spiritual stirring, often between certain days of the month. When the veil between fate and free will becomes thin, you must listen, you must remember, for between the 9th and 12th, energy begins to shift. And if your spirit is still, you will see his remembrance of you is not of the body, but of the echo you left in his soul. Stay until the end, because what you are about to hear is not simply about love, it is about the alignment of destinies, the purification of illusions, and the holy days in which a man realizes he was never truly seeking a woman. He was seeking the one who reminded him of himself before the world hardened him. There is a memory not held by the mind, by the energy of the soul. When a man begins to fall in love, it is not always the result of conscious thought. Often it is the echo of something subtle, something once felt, once received, that now returns without warning. He may not understand it. He may not speak of it. But within him, a still vibration begins and it leads him back to Evher. It is not her face he remembers first, nor her voice. It is how her presence rearranged the silency around him, like the wind that enters a still room and makes the curtains dance without a sound. She altered the very space he stood in. This remembrance does not come with logic, but with sensation, the kind that stays long after the moment has passed. A woman's energy, when attuned, does not need to prove anything. It does not need to announce itself. It simply is, quiet yet undeniable, soft yet powerful, like the hush before a sacred ceremony. Long before love grows into confession, a man begins to feel the subtle impression she left in his world, not in grand gestures, but in how she simply ever was, fully, truly, and without demand. There is a tale told among the mountain monks, one not found in books, but passed through soft whispers between generations. A wandering swordsman, weary from battle and burdened by silence, once arrived at a temple nestled in fog. He sought wisdom, but found no teacher. Only a woman sweeping leaves beneath a plum tree. For days she spoke no words, yet each day as he returned, the path felt lighter, his breath deeper, his thoughts more still. When he finally asked, "What teaching have you given me?" she replied only, "I have said nothing, but you heard yourself." This is the first remembrance. She is remembered not for what she did, but for what as it he became in her presence. And he never forgot her again. In the rhythms of nature, we see this echoed. The moon does not chase the tides. It simply exists, and the ocean answers. A flower does not call for the bee, yet the bee finds it, drawn not by effort, but by essence. In daily life, too, we meet individuals whose presence stills us, awakens something noble within us, and lingers like a familiar scent carried by the wind. He remembers her because in her presence, he remembered himself, not the mask he wore for the world, but the quiet one within. The boy, the dreamer, the soul not yet hardened. There is an ancient line once spoken by a nameless Zen hermit. The deepest impressions are made without touch. The loudest teachings are given in silence. And so, before words are spoken, before hearts are opened, this is what he remembers, how he felt when she entered, not the room, but the moment. Not all time is equal. Hours that pass under a dim sky do not carry the same weight as the hours beneath a rising sun. In the same way, not all days in the month are ordinary. There are moments that shimmer beneath the surface, thin veils, where fate comes close enough to whisper. Between the 9th and 12th of, the world begins to stir differently. The energy that flows through the unseen currents becomes more sensitive, more receptive. It is in these sacred windows that remembrance is often born. A man may have passed her presence many times before. On these days, something opens. A spiritual portal, perhaps, a divine allowance. And suddenly he sees her, not with the eyes, but with something deeper. It is not coincidence. It is timing. When the internal is aligned with the external, recognition is inevitable. This is divine timing, not created by will, but honored by silence. A Zen story tells of a musician who played his flute each morning at dawn, hoping the mountain spirit would come. For 100 days, the music echoed unanswered. But on the 101st day, the clouds parted and the spirit appeared. The monk who told this story would always add, "It was not the 101st song that called the spirit. It was the readiness of the wind to carry it." And so it is with love. A man may hear your words 1,000 times, but only on the day his soul is ready to receive them will they become music. You may ask, how does one know when these days arrive? The signs are subtle. An unusual dream, a feeling of quiet urgency, a moment of stillness that lingers too long. The air feels thick yet gentle. The mind slows yet awakens. It is in this space that love enters, not with fanfare, but with the echo of fate. Between these days, do not chase, do not speak with force. The sacred must not be rushed. Let your energy speak. Let your stillness sing. In the natural world, we see this in the blooming of the night jasmine, its fragrance only released under the moonlight. No one sees its bloom, all who pass remember it. Real life, too, carries such moments. A man may scroll past countless images, hear countless voices, but then suddenly, on one quiet evening, he pauses. Something strikes, not because she changed, because the timing opened the gate. Love is not random, it is rhythmic, it is bound to the cycles of the universe. As Confucius once said, when the heart is ready, the teacher appears. When the soul is prepared, the beloved is recognized. See, in these days of divine timing, past echoes into the present. The memory is not new, it is simply awakened, and that is what he remembers. Not a detail, but a moment. Not a conversation, but a shift. Not your presence, but his transformation through your presence. These two remembrances, the echo of energy and the eyes of divine timing, form the silent roots of a man's love. They are unseen, but they sustain. They are unspoken, but they move mountains. And so, walk with stillness, speak with soul, let the divine do its part. He is not remembering you. He is remembering the place within himself that only you touched, at the exact moment the stars allowed him to feel. ChatGPT said, "Not every woman who passes through a man's life is remembered. Some fade like dreams upon waking, their presence light, their essence fleeting. But once in a while, a woman appears not as a visitor, but as a remembrance. She does not arrive, she returns. This is the nature of the chosen one, not chosen by preference, but by destiny. There are connections of the flesh, and there are connections of the spirit. The former bring excitement, the latter brings stillness. When a man falls into the orbit of a soul his own has known before, whether in this life or some ancient pattern before it, he does not respond with desire alone. He responds with a kind of inner recognition. His body may pause, but his soul bows. In this way, she is not new to him. She is familiar, not in form, but in vibration. Like hearing a melody you've never learned, but somehow already know how to hum. She becomes the one he cannot forget, not because she demands his attention, because something in him understands that she is a thread from a tapestry that was woven long before they met. A monk once told a student, when you meet a soul you've known before, your bones remember, not your mind. Your breath shifts, your pulse slows. And suddenly, the world feels aligned, even if your life is not. In the ancient temples of the East, there was a story told beneath breath, reserved only for those nearing enlightenment. A master and his disciple climbed a high mountain to meditate in silence. At the summit, they saw a woman walking alone, her steps delicate, her robe untouched by wind. The disciple bowed instinctively, though he did not know her. Later, he asked the master, "Why did I bow without thought?" The master smiled and replied, "Because your soul rose before your body understood. You have bowed to her before, in a life where names did not matter." This is how remembrance works. When a man is falling in love with the one written into his path by divine ink, he does not weigh her virtues. He does not measure her beauty or rank her words. Instead, he becomes silent in her presence. And in that silence, he hears the echo of a bond older than reason. In daily life, we often brush against people, exchange words, and forget. But every so often, someone touches the deeper part of us. They say nothing profound. They do nothing extravagant, but something shifts. We are no longer observing them. We are remembering them. Nature shows this in the migration of birds. No one teaches them the way. Each year, at the appointed time, they follow a path imprinted in their being. They do not guess. They know. Love, too, has its inner compass. A real-life example often seen, though rarely named, is when two people part ways due to time or circumstance. But years later, perhaps even decades, they meet again and nothing is forgotten. The connection had not dissolved, it had only waited. Such a woman, such a presence, does not strive to be remembered. She simply walks in alignment with her own soul, and in doing so, she triggers remembrance in others. As the Taoist poet Han Shan once wrote, "She walks alone, yet never lonely, for the path recognizes her feet." This is the third remembrance, not of attraction, not of admiration, but of a contract signed before time, and when fate permits it to unfold, the recognition is complete. But fate, in its wisdom, does not open its hand without challenge. Before love enters fully, before it can blossom into something lasting, the soul must be tested. The universe does not give what has not been earned. And so, the man remembers not only the light a woman brings, he remembers who stood with him in darkness. This is the nature of the spiral of tests and blessings. Just as the mountain does not offer its view until the climb has wearied the legs, true connection is not granted without hardship. The soul must pass through shadow to appreciate light, and so must the heart. In the early stages of falling in love, trials appear. Misunderstandings, silence, separation, moments where all clarity fades. And yet, if she remains calm, steady, anchored, not out of need, but out of truth, she is etched into his memory in a way that no pleasure ever could match. There is a parable from the Shaolin lineage. A young man fell into a river during monsoon season. The current was violent, the banks slippery. Many watched from afar. Only one leapt in, a silent girl younger than he, with no words and no fear. Together they were carried miles downstream, battered but alive. Years later the man became a great general, honored and praised. But when asked who he owed his life to, he always pointed to the quiet woman who once faced the storm without promise of reward. "She did not come for recognition," he said. "She came because her soul was still." In daily life, we often forget who cheered us in our triumph. We never forget who stood beside us in our unraveling. When a man falls in love, there is often a moment of difficulty, perhaps between the 17th and 19th, days traditionally known as the days of wind and stone. These are spiritually significant windows when doubt creeps in, where energy tightens, and the soul is asked, do you truly see, or do you only see when it's easy? If, during this time, she does not retreat, if she holds her center, if she listens more than she accuses, reflects more than reacts, then he remembers her as his mirror, not his opponent. Nature shows us this as well. The bamboo bends in storm, but does not break. It is not the most rigid that survives the storm. It is the one that knows when to sway. In a personal journey, think of the times we were lost, uncertain, broken. Who was there? Not to rescue, but to remain. That person's presence becomes sacred. This is what men remember. Not the perfection of a woman, but the constancy of her presence when nothing else was sure. There is an old line from a Zen calligrapher, rarely quoted, yet deeply profound. The ink that does not run during rain becomes the scripture of the soul. He remembers not only how she made him feel when he was happy. He remembers how she stayed when he doubted himself. He remembers how she listened when his voice cracked. He remembers how she believed when he had forgotten the way. This memory binds deeper than any vow. So the journey of love is not only about recognition. It is about resilience, to be remembered not only in beauty, but in the testing of spirit. This is the kind of remembrance that carves itself into a man's inner temple. Together, these truths form the heart of remembrance, that she was not simply part of his life. She was written into his becoming. She did not just walk beside him. She stood beside him when the road disappeared. She was not only the soul he once knew, she was the one who stayed when life asked the question, "Do you know who walks with you when there is no path?" And when she answered not with words, but with presence, he remembered. And in that remembrance, he loved. There are things we remember not because they were loud, but because they were silent. In the journey of falling in love, a man often forgets what was said. He forgets the precise words, the scripted gestures, even the outer beauty that once caught his eye. But what remains, what lingers, what quietly returns to him in the still moments of the night are the moments when she did nothing, yet said everything. This is the nature of sacred stillness. In her stillness, he felt safe. In her quiet, he felt seen. In her restraint, he felt room to breathe and return to himself. This is not passive. This is not indifference. It is a rare spiritual quality, a cultivated presence that only the truly rooted can offer. It is the kind of stillness that holds space for truth to arise without pressure. There was once a monk who walked with his student through a dense forest. The student asked many questions about love, purpose, and the nature of the mind. The monk listened, offering few words in return. After hours of walking in silence, they came upon a lake. The monk pointed to the still surface and said, "Look, what do you see?" The student replied, "I see the trees, the sky, and myself." The monk nodded. "Now throw a stone." The student did. The ripples spread, the image vanished. "When the mind moves too much," said the monk, "the truth disappears." A woman's stillness is like this lake. It reflects what a man cannot see in his own rushing thoughts. She teaches him not by telling, but by being. In a world loud with opinion, advice, and emotional urgency, the one who knows how to be still becomes unforgettable. Not because she withdraws, because her silence invites depth. Her stillness is not cold. It is complete. It asks nothing, yet gives peace. In real life, this is the woman who does not fill every pause with words. She listens without the urge to interrupt. She remains when others would react. When he is overwhelmed, she does not press him for answers. She creates a space where he can find them on his own. And in that quiet refuge, he learns to trust not only her, but himself. We see this reflected in nature. A tree does not speak, but it offers shade. A mountain does not move, but it inspires awe. The moon says nothing, yet it governs tides and stirs emotion. In their stillness, there is power. There is a quote from the obscure Zen master Takuan So, "When nothing is done, nothing is left undone." The heart reveals itself in silence. Between the 21st and 22nd, known in spiritual calendars as the days of still waters, the soul becomes sensitive to energy not spoken but felt. During these windows, it is not action that defines remembrance, it is presence. If, during this time, she is not pushing, not pleading, not performing, but simply being, he feels her more deeply than at any other moment. And this is what he remembers. Not the effort, but the stillness. From this sacred silence emerges another remembrance, equally transformative yet rarely understood. Love, when it is real, does not provide comfort alone, it awakens. It breaks the shell, reflects the hidden. When a man is truly falling for a woman, he does not only see her, he begins to see himself. Sometimes with joy, sometimes with discomfort, but always with truth. This is the gate of inner awakening. To love deeply is not merely to find pleasure in the other. It is to be seen, to be revealed, and to be challenged to return to the self that has long been forgotten. The chosen woman becomes the mirror. Not a surface mirror that flatters, but a sacred mirror that shows what has been hidden beneath armor and habit. In her eyes, he may see the boy he abandoned, the dream he left behind, the goodness he no longer believed in. And this reflection does not always feel gentle. A story is told in the temples of the southern mountains. A hermit once carved a mirror from obsidian stone, said to reflect the soul rather than the face. Travelers who looked into it either wept or turned away. One day, a woman arrived, calm and unafraid. She gazed into the mirror and smiled softly. The hermit asked, "Why do you not flinch?" She replied, "I have seen all of this in the eyes of someone I love." In this way, love becomes a teacher, not through lecture, but through revelation. The woman he falls for does not just complete him, she awakens him. She calls him inward. She does not soften the road, she sharpens his vision. She does not remove the burden, she reminds him of his strength to carry it. In everyday life, this kind of awakening is often subtle. It happens when she challenges his avoidance with compassion, when she does not indulge his patterns, but neither condemns them. She becomes the voice of gentle truth, the only kind that transforms. He begins to work on himself, not because she told him to, because being around her brings his higher self into view. He sees how far he's drifted, and she becomes the compass, not by dragging him back, but by embodying where he wants to go. Nature teaches this too. The sun does not pull the flower open. It shines and the flower unfolds. The mountain does not push the river forward. It simply stands and the river shapes its path in response. The transformative energy of a woman who is aligned with her truth calls a man toward his own. There is a line from an old Chinese philosopher, Zhang Zi, often overlook it. The superior person is moved by virtue, not persuasion. Transformed, not instructed. Between the 23rd and 25th, known in esoteric circles as the days of the bell, the soul is struck gently, like a sacred gong, not by noise, but by vibration. During these days, the unconscious becomes restless, dreams become vivid, old wounds surface. And it is often during this spiritual resonance that a man begins to realize his love for her is not a desire to possess, but a call to become. And what he remembers most is not how she loved him, but how she awakened the part of him that could finally love himself. These final two remembrances are not loud, they are not immediate, but they are eternal. He remembers the stillness because it brought peace. He remembers the awakening because it brought him home. So if you ask, what does he remember when he begins to fall in love? Know that it is not your words, your beauty, or even your kindness. It is the reflection you held in your silence. It is the mirror you became in your truth. And it is the transformation you allowed without force. In these sacred impressions, he finds not only you, but the path to himself. And that is why he cannot forget. Now you know, love is not found. it is remembered. These are not days on a calendar. They are echoes in the soul. He remembers you not when you arrive, when the universe permits his soul to see. So walk not in urgency, but in stillness. Speak not to convince, but to resonate. Love not to possess, but to remind. The one who is remembered was never forgotten. You are not waiting for him to choose you. You are waiting for the heavens to unveil the moment he realizes. He already knew you long before this life began. And when that moment arrives, you will not need to speak. The silence will be enough.